Sweet. We're recording on the cloud, so I won't lose it. All right. Welcome to week two. Hey, I apologize about the delay in this. I wanted to do this last night. I was stuck on the road and didn't want to do a real half-ass job from um, my phone in a car. That would not have been effective or efficient or anything. So here we are. All right. So I think we want to, at least I want to address a post that I did a few days ago, which, Loom is like a great tool, but at the same time, like sometimes I just want to just smash it because it doesn't give me audio sometimes, and it'll just like it won't upload properly. Anyway, all right. So, like, what is food? Let's talk about that, right? Because I really went into a little bit more detail on like that poll. Um, what is food? Is it just for fuel? Is it for connection? Is it for enjoyment? Or is it only to create an effect in your body, right? And the answer is all of it. Okay. Uh, it is a complex thing, and it really is. So it's not just as simple as like, hey, you're only eating food in order to fuel your body. You're only eating to fuel performance, gain muscle, lose fat, X, whatever, right? Complete your goal. It's more than that. Okay. And you have to remember that, right? You have to give each meal has to have some type of purpose, right, behind it. And if you don't, then that's where things kind of go sideways, right? And stay with me on this, right? Because it seems a little bit like deep, maybe, or more complex than it needs to be, and maybe it is. But either way, like this is where I've had success coaching clients and also myself through this. Is like when you sit down and eat a meal, you understand what the purpose is behind said meal. Okay, you say this is a meal for fuel, right? And you don't have to like gut through it and hate it, but you know that, hey, listen, like I might not have dessert with this meal because I am fueling progress. I am fueling a result. I am fueling body fat loss. I am fueling muscle gain, right? That is the purpose behind it. Okay. Every meal does not have to be for enjoyment. Every meal does not have to be for social connection, right? We need food to fuel us so we don't die, right? We need food to fuel us so that we can do the things we want to do the way we want to do them and have a body that is what we want it to be. Okay. So therefore, like you have to give those meals meaning. All right. I would say those meals should be in the range of like 70 to 80%, depending depending on a few other things, but like 70 to 80% of food for fuel is going to get you pretty far, right? It's going to be clean. It's going to be, on track with what your overarching goal is. Like you've identified the meal with the goal and you've made a connection. Okay. So therefore it's going to be pretty impactful. Right. Um, Additionally, food is fuel, but it is also what? Social, right? It is a social component of our existence as human beings. All right. So like you have meals with friends, you have meals with family, you have meals that don't exactly line up with just for fuel, right? Just for fuel. It doesn't line up like that, right? It might overlap a little bit, but it is not solely one plus one equals two on this, and that's totally okay, right? Now, here's what you can do: you can take that, and that's not going to be every meal. That's going to be a minority of the time. So you can say inside of that 20%, you have a little bit more flex with what you choose as far as using food for a social connection, whether it's a date, whether it's a meal with family, like whatever it is, you have some more flex with that because it's a minority of the time and you're still aware of what you're doing. You're choosing what you're doing. It's not happening to you. You are effectively expressing your will onto that meal. So you're giving it a purpose and meaning, even though it is not right in line with what you want. Okay, or right in line with your goal necessarily, because you have to have that flex. You have to be able to understand like when to like really drop the hammer and be super disciplined and when to like relax just a little bit, right? because nobody wants to be around that person that's going to a birthday party with chicken and broccoli in a freaking Tupperware plastic bag, right? That's unnecessary. Okay. Unless you need to do that for health reasons or things are so bad, right, that you have to do it. That's one thing. Most of the time, that is not the case. That is not the case at all. So you need to be flexible enough and to be aware enough to understand, like, I just have to give all of these meals meaning and purpose. And it's all good. Okay. And if you do that, you develop not only like a connection with your overarching goal and staying on track, but also understanding like how not to be an inflexible crazy person. Okay. Because if you're so rigid that you cannot flex at all, like that's not a person that people are going to want to be around. And that's really probably going to be counterproductive for the overall goal anyway. So you have to understand how to do this. All right. You have to. Okay. The overlap with this is like if you use things that are really based on fitness, wellness, training, working out, stuff like that, and those are your social connections, then those will also overlap with better eating habits for the most part. Okay. So that 20% that you're using for social connection that you give yourself a little bit of flex, right? Maybe that shrinks down to 10%. And those are the people that really like will create like uh synergistic results. Okay. So it'll be like throwing gas on a fire, right? So like that's why CrossFit, or gym cultures where there's a big community piece, that's why those are very effective. Okay. It is because you are making your social connection based around health and fitness and training and that kind of stuff. So all the stuff that you were doing for fun, you're now doing for health. And all the stuff you were doing for health, you're also still doing, right? So it closes that window of flex and shrinks it down. Right now, that can have detrimental effects downstream if you don't understand how to navigate this process and give yourself more periods of flex and less, right? And how to ebb and flow with that, how to be adaptable, right? Because I've seen it the other way where people will go so hard in the paint that it's not sustainable and you just can't do it forever, right? You have to be able to allow yourself seasons and flexibility, right? Because we change, right? We change, our goals change, and that kind of stuff. But you have to make the connection, right? Because you can't separate it out. Okay. Christmases, holidays, birthdays, right? That like I will never have a birthday that I won't want an ice cream cake. Like I've just made those pairings where that's what I want and that's what I like and that's what I want to do. That's what I've always done, right? So like those memories, that connection, the emotional piece of it, you can't separate that out. You cannot do it. So understanding that and then understanding where to put that. And I know that hey, if I want an ice cream cake on my birthday, or if I want to have, some drinks at this event, right? Some alcohol, stuff like that, some lower quality food, some pizza, some whatever, because I've always done it, that's cool. Like you just have to account for it and make sure that it fits in that window of like 20%. If we start getting outside that window of 20%, you're going to really slow down your progress, right? And then you're also deciding it. You're also giving these meals meaning and purpose, right? So like how do we navigate that? Okay? So it's not bad. This is not a bad way to do it. So I'm just going to do some quick math here, right? So if I eat 3 meals a day times 7 days, that's 21 meals. Okay. 21 meals. Okay. Multiply that times 0.2. And that's going to give us 4.2. So let's round down. So we go to 4. Okay. So we have 4 meals of flexibility. That's in our 20%, right? That's 20% of our meals, 4 meals. Okay. Now, like, where do you want to spend that money? Where do you want to spend those flexibility points, right? This is what every diet is kind of made of, right? So like Weight Watchers, like, flexible dieting, if it fits your macros, whatever. This is all the same shit. Okay. If I eat 21 meals, I have 4 meals. Okay. And I have flexibility with that. So if I want to add ice cream, I add it into those 4 meals. If I want to add pizza, I add it into those 4 meals. If I know I have a holiday coming up, I add that into a meal, maybe 2. Okay. So then I got 2 left. That's per week, guys. Per week, not per month, per week. So if you're 80% good, 20%, a little bit of flex, you're going to make progress. So just put it into context, right? That's how you track without tracking. All right. Like that's pretty easy to understand. And I think I'll end up hitting on that more often. All right. Like 20%. And if you want to get it tighter, we got a vacation or we got a goal coming up, but we need to be a little leaner, or we really want to get weight off faster, then we take that 4 a week and we shrink down to 2 a week. All right. And we got 2 flex meals a week. Now that doesn't mean you can go and throw 1,000 calories into it. That means you got a little bit of flexibility. So if you want a little bit of pizza, you can have like 2 or 3 pieces of pizza within that context. I mean, you'd be all right. Okay. If you want to have some ice cream, like like a serving, like not a box of it or a pint of it or whatever, like you can, but you have to flex it in there, right? You can't just use it like 1,000 calories at each one, then you'll derail things. So you can't. This doesn't mean that you have a license to do whatever you want for 4 meals. It means you have a little bit of flex for 4 meals. Okay, it means you can come outside the window of like super like crazy rigid. You can come outside that. Okay, you just have to know where to put it, right? And if you want to combine it, like you can combine it, but you have to understand what like caloric load looks like. You have to understand a little bit more in order to stay within that 20%. If you stay within the 20%, 80/20, you're going to be good. You're going to make progress. Okay. And when you come outside that window is when you stop and when it slows. So like you just have to really understand uh, what that all means and what it looks like and that kind of stuff. And that's where stuff like this is helpful. All right. So, all right. So 80/20 we talked about, and food is fuel, connection, social. It's also hormonal. Okay. So, like anytime that you put anything inside your body, it's going to have a hormonal effect, right? So, it's going to elicit hormonal changes, and whether that's a medication, whether that is, like a food, whether that's water, it all has a hormonal effect on our system. So we have to understand that like that's a real thing too. Like what can we get away with as far as like stripping fats down, making sure that we're staying within a safe range of like fats from calories. Okay, so dietary fats, that's what I'm looking for. Dietary fats, right? Without dietary fat, we don't have cholesterol. Without cholesterol, we don't have hormones. We don't have sex hormones, right? So those convert, right? Boom, 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 and then that helps to create a cascade of those sex hormones. If you strip it down too low, you're going to have issues. Okay. So understanding kind of what that means. All right. So with fats, all right, let's stay with that because I think there's something that we need to address it as far as cutting, right? Um, food quality. Okay. So when we talk about quality, we're talking about the food items we're eating, not macros, not calories, right? So there's two elements to this, right? Food quality is one, food quantity is another. Okay, so when we are looking at quality and we're working on cutting, then we have to look at like we just took our baseline. Okay, we took our baseline. These are our A days. All right. So with that, all right, we should know roughly like what we've been eating, and it should somewhat resemble like how we've been doing things. All right. So maybe no real changes this week. All right. That's fine if there was, or if there wasn't, and it's fine if it was. So what we need to look at now is how do we reduce things, right? Progressively and systematically and sustainably. Okay. So some of the pictures, this is why I asked you guys to post pictures of food, because now I can kind of see like, hey, some of the pictures we are looking at, like we're looking at like almond milk, sour cream, cheese, dairy, dairy and fats can get really heavy with calories. Okay. So those are the easiest things to take away first when we're looking at reducing, right? they are things that are super, super calorically heavy. And just taking them out will all of a sudden, like, you'll get down to 20% on calorie deficit. You'll create that 20% like very easily. And all you got to do is just kind of like strip it down a little bit. Okay. It's the nature of cutting. Like, you're going to strip things down. But I would start with that first, and then I would reduce from there. Okay. So I would start with fats, especially if it's fats that are not from like red meats, maybe some avocado, stuff like that. Like, I would reduce other stuff first. So, like, really focusing on dairy, right? Dairy can go. Okay. Dairy is not something that is super, super necessary. And a lot of times for many people, it is moderately to highly inflammatory, which means that it creates gut distress, bloating, stuff like that. So if we take it out, all of a sudden we start dropping some decent weight. So that's what I would look at. If you're looking just from solely a food quality standpoint, then you need to remove that stuff, right? The dairy, I would say like half of it. Okay. So if we reduce half the dairy, we'll probably be down roughly 20% of total calories, right? Especially if you use it on a regular basis, right? So that means almond milk, nuts, tree nuts, nut butters, dairy. Start with those and remove those. You can keep in whey protein. You can keep in, red meats for the most part for right now. If you want to start reducing that a little bit and replacing it with uh, like more leaner protein choices like chicken and poultry and fish, you can do that, right? That is an option too. But like, we can wait until like next week or the week after to do that if you want to, right? If you want to start jockeying stuff around now, you can. I mean, again, this is just from a food quality standpoint. This is how we just kind of like use food items to kind of like change it without having to weigh and measure everything. Now, if you weigh and measure everything, that does help to create more of a like a target focused response. Okay. So with quantity, okay, with quantity, moving on from quality into food quantity, what we're looking at is a little bit of math. All right. So I'm going to go back to back to the calculator here and say, all right, if my A days this week, if I'm tracking all my calories, and that was like, I was at 2,000 calories, I'm 200 pounds, and my average was 2,000 calories. All right. So this is how you do some simple math to reduce it for your B days, right? B days are 20% down. All right. So I know that I need uh, 200 grams of protein. Okay. And there are 4 calories per 1 gram of protein. So that means 200 grams of protein times 4 calories per protein gram. That equals 800 calories. So I have 800 calories from protein. Okay. And then I take that 2000 minus 800, and that gives me 1200 calories. I have 1200 calories left after my protein is accounted for. Okay. So then I take the 1200, right? And then I gauge my fat off of roughly 70 grams times 9, because there are 9 calories per gram of protein. And that gives me 630. 100 minus 630 equals 570. And then divide that by 4. There are 4 calories per 1 gram of carbs. I'm going to round up, say that's 155. So that gives me roughly 70 grams of fat, 155 grams of carbs, and 200 grams of protein. All right. And that's for my A days. For my B days, all I have to do is reduce all of those by 20%. Okay. So 70 times 0.2, 14 minus 70 is 55. Right. 25. And then 200 times 0.2, 40. Okay, so then my B days macros are 160, 125, and 55, right? So you can see how they reduce progressively. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go A day, B day for this week, and then you'll have a 20% lower calorie day every third day. Okay, that's it. And then if you do that this week, we'll do the same thing next week, and then the week after that, it'll be all B days. So we just stair step down rather than jumping all the way in. And that tends to be much more effective and efficient and sustainable, right? Because if you just jump into the deep end, it's going to hurt real bad, and it should only hurt real bad for just a little bit, and then we can dive right in and get right out. So that's what we're looking at doing. All right. So this week it is A day, B day, right? And if you're just focusing on food quality, just reduce. And this is every day though for food quality, because we're not tracking the numbers, they're not going to be as accurate, right? You just need to reduce the amount of dairy and inflammatory stuff that you're doing, and maybe and then look at how many meals you're giving yourself with flex, right? Again, if we stay with 20%, right, then that's 4 meals a week that you get a little bit of flex, right? That you can have some items that are a little bit lower quality, or outside the window of what we've talked about from a food quality standpoint. Okay. So you got a little bit of flex. Now, the week after that, I would say take those 4 meals and reduce it by one, right? Or reduce it by two. Okay. Your choice. All right. And then that will help to take the calorie load and bring it down. Okay. In addition to that, the last thing I'll talk about is making sure that you have like a 12-hour fasted window and a 12-hour feeding window, right? If you stay within that, that's going to do a whole lot for gut health, insulin sensitivity, all of the health markers that we need to focus on as well. So that does some really good stuff, making sure that you're not like eating all day long, right? Your guts need a break. Your digestive system needs a break. Things need to settle down, right? And if you're just always putting food in, like that can be detrimental. All right. So that's all I got for today. I will have to get this edited, and it'll be up in a little bit, but it'll take me a minute. So there you go. Let me know if you got questions. And all right, on to week 2. Good work.